Good morning.
Sure. Good morning. Good morning. I guess it's still a morning in the US. So nice to be invited to this. Thank you so much, Jason. It's really a pleasure to be joining your podcast and your interview here today. And yeah, it's an interesting journey, isn't it? It's when you are a female, I guess you hardly think about what kind of challenges you will meet in the future when you start working as a young female. So my story started basically, I'm mostly born and bred offshore since both my mom and my dad used to work offshore in Norway. And I grew up with that. My mom started working when I was 7 in the North Sea. So they were both a lot away at work and I was back home tending to myself and animals and stuff. But it all worked out to be okay. So I decided to take up the same career. I wanted to be an OIM. That didn't happen, but at least I went into the same business. Did my master's degree in science, petroleum and production and drilling and all that. And then I started applying for jobs. So I always had a plan. You will go into QHSE first, build your competency within safety and quality, and then build on that. So that's what I did. I was quite lucky to be recruited into Odfjell Drilling. It's actually where I've been working now for 22 years. So my entire career has been in this company. And it hasn't always been easy because I was the first drilling engineer in Odfjell Drilling. The contractor business is a little bit more, conservative compared to the operators and the service companies, which all have really good females. They have good programs. I'm not saying that it's easy for them either, but contractor business has always been a bit difficult for females, also in Norway. But I have been lucky. I've been having people around me that have had faith in me. That certainly worked for it. It takes a lot of convincing guys, mostly, that you know your stuff. That is one of the big ones that I always tell my female colleagues and the younger ladies, that you need to know your kind of speciality. You need to be sure that you know your stuff.
You bring up a good point about that. And earlier, speaking with Billy, as you and I spoke about the strong women in the oil field, one of her things was being confident. And as a woman, having that confidence to raise your hand, not only when you want to say, hey, I want to apply for this, or I want to put my name in the hat, but also as your career and as you learn and build that, you said faith, but it's really that confidence in your coworkers and your colleagues. You should have confidence to raise your hand and speak up and engage and lead. So I love that you said that. And it's surrounding your people that have faith in you. But to your point, it's building that confidence through showing up every day and getting involved and developing a name for yourself. No, I love that.
And I'm so glad that she also said that, because it is really important. And also being confident also has a different side. You also need to be humble. You need to understand when to be that, okay, I know this. And when you are okay to say, I'm not sure about this. We need to find out what's going on here. Or is there anyone around me that actually have this competency? And
100%.
I learned that very early as a rig manager, because I've never been a driller. So I don't have that competency, which is fine. I know how it's done and all of that. But when it comes to what do you do when that happens, I would ask the driller, just be humble, be confident. I think that's
I love that.
important.
Yeah, we talk about all the time about in the interview process, and the kind of people that we'd love to work with is humble, hungry, and smart. And humble's the first one. And then the last one's integrity. If they don't have that, then don't even worry about the first three, right? No, I love how you've really kind of built that career, again, over 22 years with Odfjell. Very impressive. And some of the stories that you and I have shared is just, again, to me, it's just something I really kind of look up to, because I was a sales, more commercial guy in my career. That, again, I started off in operations, learning the rig. I went on land rigs, I went offshore. I really understood operations before I got back into the sales seat. And I love those stories on location, on well site, And I do think it's trial by fire. And if you're humble and you're willing to learn and listen, you can really do well in this business because there's so much around you to learn from and a lot of people with great experience. You look, you've had several positions throughout your career there. What are some of the most important lessons that you've learned along the way, especially at Odfjell, seeing the ebbs and flows of not just the geopolitical side of the energy business, but just the growth of Odfjell and the fact that Odfjell has started in offshore drilling. Now there's Odfjell Technology, drilling, and both successful companies are going in very parallel but different directions upwards. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, for me personally, I've worked most of my career in Norway. That's where my entire kind of operational career within the rigs and the platforms has been. And you discover that you are in a very little pool. You know all the clients. It's a very small community of people. Everybody knows everybody. And it's also very, I would say it's narrow and it's quite okay environment to work in. When we split the company into Oilfield Drilling and Odfjell Technology, I took on the role as the well services EVP, which is a very international part of Odfjell Technology. And then you start to learn about all the different markets, all the different cultures, which is very important. And again, being a woman in certain cultures, you need to find your way, navigate around it. But what I have also observed in those kind of situations is that your competence is what takes you there. When you show people that you know what you're talking about, you know your stuff, as I said earlier, you will have that confidence and you have the opportunity to still be an important part and a player for your clients and your potential partners.
And
So
you said
well,
confidence.
competence. You need
Okay,
to
yeah, no,
have
that's great. Yeah,
competent.
your
Yeah.
competence will take you there. I love that.
Yes, I think that is very important because you will always be looked at your age, your how you look like, and God knows what. But in the end, it's the competency that will end up with people. And
Absolutely.
I'm glad that's the thing because that means that we have come a little bit further. So internationally, it's always going to be hard for a company that has Norwegian roots to go in internationally because you have to learn all the time. And to be honest, for us Norwegians, we always think that our way is the best way. That might be something that everybody thinks about their own kind of culture, but we're learning that it's absolutely not. You have to adapt. You have to find your way. You have to find your own, what they call edge to what you do and what you can deliver. And you will also discover that it's not all markets that's meant to have your presence. And you will see that there are some markets that you maybe didn't anticipate being good for you. So we learn a lot all the time. And I do learn a lot all the time. And it's very exciting and also giving to work in an international environment.
Yeah, I love
Especially over
that.
in the US now, Jason, where we are working together with you guys.
Yeah, and that's been fantastic. And you bring up a good point about cultures. And you and I have not only brought this up in our initial conversations over a year ago, when we really just first started talking about that global strategic partnership, but how also the real challenges of the cultural differences of just how we communicate, our schedules, everything. And then at the end of the day, it's great because we do know that as you work through these things, these challenges and these misunderstandings, at the end of the day, we have a common goal. And as you mentioned earlier, just being humble about, hey, look, we don't know it all. How can we get to the same end goal together with as little blood loss as possible and hopefully with a lot of success? And
Yeah.
going back to it, as a leader today, what qualities as a woman do you believe are most important for building strong teams and successful organizations, in your opinion?
I actually want to say something about something that my boss told me once, because through my career, I've been working only with guys, basically only with guys. And what happens then is that you start to copy the guys. You have to play on the same strings as they do. And what happens then is that you might lose a part of yourself that actually makes you a better leader. So my boss told me that, Elisabeth, you are not in this position because I want you to behave as a guy. I want you to be yourself. And that was food for thoughts
Mhm.
because then I could, okay, let's play with this. let's find my inner Elisabeth, my way of being a leader. And being a female as a leader, of course, everyone talks about these soft abilities that maybe females have more of than guys, really generalistic, but bear with me. Yeah, we might have that, but we can be as tough as anyone else at the same time as a guy can be also quite soft and tough as anyone else. So for me, I hope that I listen, and I hope that I take decisions based on facts, and also making sure that I have listened to everyone that needs to be listened to, and not jumping into conclusions too fast. And I think that taking your time making decisions, which I was not used to during my previous career, because it was always in a hurry, right? You're always pressured to take on decisions, and it's fun to take fast decisions. Very much fun, but you lose out on the business details. So being a business leader, you need to have the people behind you. When I run to the war, I need to have people running behind me. Otherwise, I'm nothing. I can't do anything. So
Absolutely.
you also have to have the business perspective there, which is a tougher one, but it's absolutely necessary because that's why we're here. Never
No,
forget that.
yeah, and you're looking across global operations. That's such a big deal. And you're seeing everything real time over a 24-hour period from one location. And I think your perspective is very interesting from that standpoint. And I love to hear that. And as you talk about leaders and organizations creating opportunities for that next generation of talent, especially the younger ladies and women that are getting into the energy business, whether they're in operations, they're a true engineer, or whatever sector, as we talked about, whether you're in the corporate administrative roles, sales and marketing, there's so much to get involved in. What are you thinking of that next generation of talent? What would you offer up to them?
If you're thinking about the future women leaders or female leaders, I would say that for us to make that happen, we need to be a support system for identifying the talents that wants to go places, and not only being leaders on a high level, but also the specialists, the technical specialists. We do have a lady in our organization called Annalisa, and she loves engines. She doesn't want to be a leader. She wants to work with engines. She wants to be a specialist at engines, big engines. And I really applaud that, because there is an opportunity there for everyone, and everyone has basically the same brain. So about that, finding these talents, making sure that talents doesn't just fall between the cracks here and there and don't believe in themselves. It's our job as leaders today to make sure that the framework conditions are in place to make that happen. With us, we have very few ladies in the operational and management positions, unfortunately. We are really working with that. We do have our Odfjell Technology Women Network, where we are trying to figure out what do we need to do as management to put in place a good environment for our females to start with us, and also to retain our young females. It is not easy. And looking over to our international area, even more difficult. And it's about rules and regulations. For instance, females offshore in the UK, we don't have a chance, because when we want the family, we don't have the frame conditions needed to actually be working offshore anymore. And that's also a problem over here in Norway, even with the very beneficial rotation systems we have here. So basically, I would say that for all the females, dare to take that step and say yes, please, to the opportunities that you see, that you want, that you would like to have. Do not think that classical thing that we are thinking as females, oh, I'm not qualified. There are 10 requirements. If I fulfill only 9, I will not step into that area. No, just do it. Just do it. Take that step. Take that leap. Jump into it. What is the worst thing that could happen? That's
No,
the question you
absolutely.
need to ask yourself. What's the worst thing that can happen?
Yeah, I was actually having a conversation with a gentleman, and it said, don't be afraid to fail. And I love that. I think that's such a impactful statement for that young person looking to take that first step, or even someone earlier in the career just yet to have that confidence. And as we wrap up here, the one question to kind of throw you off, and let's fast forward another 10, 20 years, maybe, since you still have a lot of runway left. When people look back on your career many years from now, what do you hope they remember most about your leadership and impact as you had such a wide reach of your 22-year career so far?
Wow, that's a big question, Jason. I guess I would like to be remembered as a good leader, a kind person, but also as a good businesswoman. I really hope that. That was a good question. What did you find
Well,
out?
I'm down here in South Texas at our land district. Down here in the cactus, you get a little crazy this early in the morning, but I was just, again, I love your perspective on things. You and I have the pleasure of meeting a little over a year ago and had some time visiting there in Norway, Stavanger, and then also in Bergen at the Deep Sea Aberdeen, which was just such a blast and a great
Yeah.
experience. And got to meet some of the young ladies that you mentioned throughout the journey there. And it was just such a pleasure to see that passion and that energy within Odfjell, not only for our business, but the people in there and the women that just love this career and what we do every day. And so, Elisabeth, thank you again for joining us today and sharing your experience. I think your leadership journey is a great example of the impact that engineering, innovation, and strong leadership can both have not just in our organizations, but the broader energy group. And to everyone in the OSP land, as well as Odfjell, I want to thank everybody for listening today for the special International Women in Engineering Day edition this week on our OSP podcast series. And we appreciate your time, and we look forward to bringing you more conversations with leaders such as Elisabeth, helping shape the future of energy. Thank you again, Elisabeth. Have a great evening.
Thank you so much. And you too.